Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Fish Friday number 75 and we have a good one for you today. Today's fish is part of a family of fish that not a lot of people know about, but probably should, considering that it is one of the most endangered family of fish on the planet. Today we are going to be talking about the Bowmouth guitarfish. So the Bowmouth guitarfish, or shark ray, thought I was going to do the scientific name. So Bowmouth guitarfish, or scientific name Rhina ankylostoma, and that is Rhina ankylostoma. It is part of the family Rhinidae, which is the family of wedgefish, which are very closely related to guitarfish and sawfishes. You know, the fish that have the rostrum with the teeth on the side that people call sawfish. It's closely related to those, but it's actually very separate. Now, some people might be wondering, is this a shark or is it a ray? It's something in between, you know, guitarfish, shark ray. Well, it is actually a ray because the gills are positioned on the underside of their body. That's why they're classified as a ray, by the way. Just so you know. They are widely distributed in the Indo-Pacific region. So think from about the coast of Madagascar all the way around India, and then all throughout the Indonesian area down to the Australian coastline. So they do have a pretty wide distribution, but they only stay in the coastal tropical waters. So that's just like a real thin half circle going around the Indian and Pacific Ocean. In terms of how deep you can find these can be found anywhere between 3 and 90 meters, which is 10 to 300 feet. But usually you're finding these closer in the 10-foot range. They're not very deep. Usually, at least when you're seeing them. That's not to say that they aren't there. It spends most of its times near the seafloor, but it's sometimes found swimming in the middle of the water column, and it usually favors these sandy, muddy habitats like you can see here. But it is found near rocky and coral reefs. This is, you know, some rock, but it does seem to prefer that sand bottom, which would make sense. You know, look how it's positioned. Think of how skates and rays survive, and that makes sense there. If you couldn't tell by the pictures yet, this is a pretty stout fish. Like, it's rather large. It can grow up to 2.7 meters, which is just under 9 foot long, and weigh up to 135 kilograms, which is 300 pounds. So it's a pretty thick, stocky fish. No, you're not usually going to see these bigger than 6 to 7 feet. But I'm just saying, you know, these can get rather good sized, and they're heavily built. You can see how it's got this real thick body right in here. It's not as streamlined if you think, but it's got this short, wide head that gives it this kind of bow, or what people would also say guitar shape right here. That real short, wide head that's flattened and has this evenly rounded snout around the edges. Something that's interesting to note is sometimes on guitarfish you cannot tell where the head ends and the fins begin. On guitarfish, it's very, very easy to tell where the head stops and where the fins begin. Just so you know. Something else that's interesting about it is its mouth. Its mouth actually forms this very W shape going throughout the jaw. So up, down, up, down, up, down, and they fit together. And right here you can see the gills, by the way, just so you know. Yes, he's making a very surprised face, or a weird frowny face, I'm not sure. Something else to note about this, it does have these very large shark-like dorsal and tail fins the upper lobe of the tail fin is longer than the bottom one. A lot of scientists seem to think that this could be the guitarfish as a group could be like sort of the link between rays and skates to sharks, and this does seem to be a very good halfway point between the two of them. Something else to note about its dorsal fin, its first dorsal fin is about a third larger than the second. Seems to be extremely consistent, 1/3 larger than the second one. Don't ask me. Now, in terms of their skins, and yes, I know what you're thinking about. What about these eyebrows? What about these ridges? We're getting there, I promise it. Their skin is covered in a bunch of tiny dermal denticles. It makes their sand really rough. More than just the normal sandpapery. But of course, you have this thick ridge that's right along the backbone. You have a pair of ridges right over the eyes, a pair right in front of the eyes, and then kind of this other pair on the shoulders. And all of them have these thick, sharp thorns. You can really tell in this picture how just like sharp these look like they could cut you. These look like they could cut you, and in fact they could very easily. Scientists seem to think that it's because they're ramming other fish away. It's used to protect them because they don't want to be eaten. So yeah, that very good idea, Gentle. It's got a mohawk. He is definitely a guitarfish. He's just a punk rock guitarfish. There you go. I like it. In terms of color, it has pretty much this mini white spots over a brown or bluish black. Sometimes, even browner white spots. They do kind of fade as you go on. So like this one right here, you can see how it's not really near as mono, but the young are very much more colorful. It's, as you can see here, they've got real like dark, the kind of the panda coloration, real black, real white. They're much more spotted with much more stripes going through the head. It's pretty neat. This is a good picture because it shows the kind of what an adult would look like with what young would look like, since all the rest of them have this. Something else about it, it does have this black marking over the pectoral fin, so that seems to be pretty consistent. If you look, you got a black marking there, black marking here. You can see the black marking here, so it seems to be incredibly consistent. And to me, it always seems to kind of look like a fishing rod that's being bent. You got a circle down here and then a C. Circle, C. Seems to be consistent to me. Even here, you can see it. Circle, C. Just really interesting, in my opinion. These are a very, very strong swimmer. Do not think that just because these are just on the bottom that they are not a strong swimmer. They're incredibly strong swimming. If you can tell from this picture, it has they have these real flat teeth. They're bands, real flat, and those jaws fit tightly together. That's because this guitarfish actually feeds on both fish and crustaceans. So it uses those real flat teeth to really crunch through any sort of shell. They could bite through, they could crunch your hand and break every bone very easily. Do not doubt that at all. Something else to note about this fish is that it does give birth to live young. It gives birth to litters of 2 to 11 pups, and they're born usually around 50 centimeters long. So 2 to 11, 50 centimeters long, they're pretty good size when they come out, just so you know. Now, the reason why I had the title I did on today's stream is that this fish is critically endangered. very, very critically endangered. So much so, and it has so many problems that it has been called the panda of the aquatic world. Not because of how it looks, but because of how many problems are facing this fish. It has habitat problems, considering that it needs to be around coral reefs, so that is an issue. Bycatch, being caught by commercial fishermen, these things are not heavily prized. And then they're also caught separately as for shark fin soup. Their fins are actually incredibly valuable for the shark fin soup because they're so big. Now, other commercial fishermen consider it a nuisance fish because it is such a strong fish and such a strong swimmer, and the real rough skin of it, combined with the thorns on its head and its eyebrows, make it extremely difficult to handle, and it can completely destroy a net. So a lot of commercial fishermen hate this fish and do what they can to get rid of it. That's really sad, and so it's just facing all these problems, even though it has that incredibly wide distribution, you know, from basically the coastline of Africa, following the coastline all the way down to Australia. There's not near as many as you would think, and in fact, it just recently got put on critically endangered lists, I think in 2016. So it wasn't like it was, you know, put on long ago and they've always been rare. It's the fact that we know for a fact that the numbers of this species hasn't gone down quite a bit. There you go. But now for the interesting fact to end the video on. Even though it is critically endangered, they do pretty well in public aquariums. This is a fish that you could easily see in public aquariums. But the interesting fact about it is this picture right here. In 2007, the Newport Aquarium in Kentucky initiated the first captive breeding program, where they try and breed a species to bring back its numbers in the wild. This fish right here was the first one to do it. The Newport Aquarium announced that in January 2014, a female sweet pea, which is this shark right here, this is an actual picture of sweet pea, had become pregnant and given birth to 7 pups. Now, unfortunately, though that first litter of pups died, but on January 7th of 2016, Sweet Pea gave birth to 9 more shark pups, which ate on their own, and they're actually doing incredibly well. The Newport Aquarium actually moved the pups later on into the coral reef exhibits elsewhere in the zoo or in the aquarium. Now, there's also another breeding program at the SCA Aquarium in Singapore that started in 2015. So because of this girl right here, it seems that we might be able to establish a decent breeding program and potentially save the species, which I definitely hope is the case. But I really think that's really cool that we got an actual picture of Sweet Pea. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. If I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave it a like, comment, and subscribe. If you do, I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you again. Please leave a comment on what you'd like to see. I would love to do a special request from a YouTube comment. Please, please, please. Just leave something down there, even if it's just to say hello. But thank you guys so much again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. And